Do you think you're in control of your life? Let me tell you why you're here. You're here because you know something that you can't explain, but you feel it. You felt it in the last decade. There's something wrong with society. You don't know exactly what it is, but it's there. We live in a world of illusions. Those illusions are somehow broken since 2008, but in fact, people still think that things are pretty good. Restaurants are full, the movie houses are full, people are still spending money. We have some kind of selective depression. There are people who are out of work, who are really hurting, who can't raise their money. And there are those people that are at the receiving end of the recession. We live under the illusion of prosperity, that these things are coming back. You've been down there. You know that road. You know exactly where it ends. And I know that's not where you want to be. I imagine that right now you're feeling a bit like Alice, tumbling down a rabbit hole. If you stay here, I'll show you in the next 7 minutes just how deep the rabbit hole goes. My name is Victor Underwood, and I'm an expert on a wide range of preparedness topics, including self and home defense, weapons and ammunition, communications, relocating, retreat security, jungle travel, medicine. Most of my life has been preparedness, unplanned and planned. In fact, me and my family live at a well-stocked and fully sufficient retreat that is nestled in the mountain range. During the past 12 years, I have done an unequaled amount of field work on basic survival problems, on a wide variety of traditional pioneer and self-sufficiency skills, without always conforming to the changing civil defense doctrine. Because of this, the last thing in the world I want to do is scare anybody. Being a prepper is about being optimistic about the future. I'm telling you this because the rest of this message is all about survival. Now, this information I'm about to share is extremely time sensitive, and it's information that unfortunately you cannot find anywhere else. If responsibility frightens you, or if you want to believe the people around you who say you're paranoid, or the idea of being extremely prepared scares you, please, leave now. If you're spending your life thinking nothing bad is going to happen, you're deceiving yourself and you're not ready for the future. There is a social conscience or a social instinct that all is not well in the state of the United States or the world. We see incredible degeneration in our economy, thanks to the globalists. We see crime increasing, our prisons filled. We have 90% of the population living in urban areas that are almost completely unself-sufficient. If we have a Great Depression like the one they had in the 1920s and 30s, it is going to be absolutely devastating. And so, millions of people a month are buying guns at record levels, they're prepping, they're buying food, they're buying gardens. If society has any type of collapse or major disruption, every major city in this country will basically look like New Orleans in a very, very short period of time. And so that's why I personally was getting prepared with all the knowledge and skills. But I am also getting prepared politically out there, trying to wake up others to see that as these hard times unfortunately get worse because the globalists have engineered it that way, that more people are awake and understand what's happening. Because the social engineers want us to depend on them. They admit that that's their plan. Now the question is who's going to make it to the finish line before this accelerated collapse actually takes place. People now realize the New World Order globalization is real and about 2% of the population is trying to prepare. Most experts I talk to say that if 3, 4, or 5% start to prepare, that's going to drive up prices to everything and is going to put prepping out of reach for a lot of people, the wide majority. So this means you would have even more difficulties to prepare. People have to understand there is a systematic evil in the world. That is not just about one bad guy looking after his personal interest. There is systematic evil that thinks in strategic ways. We have to learn to think strategically. So if you've ever dreamed of discovering all the little-known secrets of truly hardcore preparedness, less than 1 out of 10,000 people know about this. Well, if that's the case, then this will be the most exciting message you will ever hear. Here is why. Thanks to the new openness about preparedness that's sweeping the country, your normal desire to learn more about survival and preparedness is now shared by millions of other people. Recently, in the last 2 years, it has become okay to admit everyone, at least everyone who is mentally healthy, wants and deserves to be fully prepared. On all levels of society, people just like you are eager to put their lives into high gear. And if your animal intuition is working at all, you already know deep down that being prepared is the foundation of a good, deep, satisfying existence. There's just one little problem. Who can you trust when you finally decide to look for the new secrets of how to be prepared? The truth is, the field of better preparedness is so new, even most of the so-called survival experts don't have a clue about the world-class techniques of top-notch preparedness. It makes me angry. You see, nearly every survival information product I've seen on the market is nothing more than a silly attempt to pass off hoarding as real survival techniques. In fact, your focus on storing up material goods is actually holding you back and might even be hurting you. Most of the so-called experts that you see and hear do not know anything about long-term preparedness and using truly superior survival techniques. In fact, their only real advice for preparedness is to increase the number of items you stock. More important than buying a bunch of stuff is understanding what is going to happen ahead of time and planning and preparing for it. If you knew the North Koreans were going to drop an EMP on the West Coast, you wouldn't want to be there, would you? But you also would want to have protected your possessions from an EMP. And you would want to have that thought about other things as well, like what you will do when the food runs out, or you have to abandon your retreat, or when family and friends overwhelm you with charitable requests. What would you rather have, 50-gallon drums of water or the knowledge of where you can get fresh water on demand anywhere in North America and how to purify it? What's more valuable, giving a man a fish or teaching him how to fish? That's fine as far as it goes. However, it does not go very far, because no real survival can exist where there is continued frustration due to lack of mental preparedness and strategy. Anyone can call themselves a survival expert, but not one expert in 1,000 ever learns anything new about survival without continuous practice. And practice is the hardest thing if you're not in the kind of military environment I've been in. And when these experts pass on bad information to the public, all it does is keep this country in the dark ages about survival. The people who put or sell misguided information are the worst of all. They represent the lowest common denominator of preparedness. Anyone who believes they can learn really good survival techniques from so-called survivalists is making a serious mistake. And any product using this kind of information under the guise of education is wasting your time. If you truly want to improve your skills and your chances of survival for the days to come. It's a mess out there. Millions of people are dying to get their hands on honest, life-saving information about improving their survival skills. And all they get from their hard-earned money is junk. It's just not fair. However, here is the most exciting survival news in years. Listen, about 15 years ago, I spent the equivalent in today's money of about $65,000 to go to a workshop in Northern Virginia which was run by other survivalists. This workshop was on how to survive after a nuclear attack. It was held in the middle of total wilderness in an environment that mimicked the post-apocalyptic world, specially constructed for the training. In fact, directions to the location were given after I registered. There was no electricity, phone, or running water at the camp. If you ever watched Survivor series, they were having 5-star conditions compared to what we had to endure. In short, it was all about how to survive in unbelievably hard conditions. The first couple of days, the experts running the workshop just talked at the audience. They explained preparedness in a very detailed way. Then they explained how to better prepare. Then they brought out the hard-trained men, and they demonstrated how to survive in a post-disaster environment with nothing but a bug-out bag and no shelter. From assessing the situation to the point of building an expedient shelter in less than a day. Using their techniques, a man can not only survive, but thrive in the most dangerous and mind-freezing situation to occur. I went home stunned and excited. I've used all my spare time over the last decade to improve and refine these already spectacular techniques I have learned at the workshop. After all this research, I now know the things about survival I'd never even dreamed about. Here are some of my amazing discoveries. First, I've learned that 99% of all people stop learning about preparedness after they've made provisions and stocked the food and water because they think they're safe. This means most adults, in spite of stocking tons of items and working on their shelters and securing their homes, only have the same amount of skills as they did when they started preparing. Second, I've discovered the personal skills most people do learn are no better than what our parents and grandparents knew. This is in spite of the so-called survival revolution and all the steamy stuff that comes out. In fact, the ignorance level of almost everyone on the subject of survival remains below amateur. Note, many of my clients who consider themselves decent survivalists were surprised to learn that they barely registered above adequate when they were compared to truly skilled survivalists. Third, I've learned that because of the different, very different nature of people's emotional response, most survival advice is actually harmful. Finally, I've discovered that there are a handful of people who have learned how to take preparedness to the highest level possible. Many of these people are part of the military, Navy, and serious researchers, but they can only reveal their secrets in small underground teaching facilities. However, the ones who learn and apply the techniques get another big and unexpected advantage, namely, a new feeling of solid confidence, peacefulness, and sheer joy seems to come flooding into every other area of their lives. In other words, using the secrets of preparedness I'm about to reveal also acts as a foundation for supercharging every other part of your life. It's as if increasing the quality of your preparation is a springboard that can send you rocketing to other areas of satisfaction in your life you could never get to before. So why haven't these secrets, which are so incredibly hot, leaked out into the rest of the world before now? Plain old human nature. The few lucky ones who learn these secrets just don't want everybody else to know about them. After all, being the best survivalist around, for real, gives these people an incredible advantage in all areas of life. And as I explained earlier, most people are under the illusion they already know enough about preparedness to get by. It's just not true. You see, as human beings, every aspect of our personality derives from the instinct to survive. But the society in which we are living has become more and more unable to offer us the environment to manifest our true self. It cannot provide us the means to naturally learn to be self-sufficient. In fact, we are 10 times more weak in the preparedness field than our ancestors. Think about it. We are dependent on things like computer, phone, TV, cars, supermarkets, electric devices to function. We don't go into the wilderness. Some of us cannot even remember the last time we went into a trip outside the city. But as human beings, we are capable of enjoying nature, of living self-sufficiently 24 hours a day. No matter what we have been taught, all of us know in our hearts, it is our birthright to be prepared to face every situation. You also know, if you are not prepared, you are constantly putting yourself at risk because anything can happen and could change your fragile reality. Fortunately, this is 2013, and finally, we don't have to apologize anymore for wanting to be better prepared. But what most of us desperately need is information and advice we can trust to guide us through all the nonsense out there. That's why I created an amazing new manual which I call the Survive After Collapse Manual, revealing survival secrets you could never find anywhere else. This new manual teaches you how to jumpstart your new survival skills overnight in a very explicit and 100 times more detailed way than anything you've ever seen. You will not see any hoarding and stockpiling bullshit in this manual. You won't see any quasi-survival nonsense either. What you get here is the real thing. Reliable, step-by-step survival instructions and real-life technical skills unavailable anywhere else on Earth. All ready to implement immediately to not only bulletproof your chances of survival, but turn you into a leader. Here's just a taste of what this manual reveals. The key ingredients in any survival situation that almost nobody is fully aware of and can literally save your life. It takes more than knowledge and skills to build shelters, get food, and make fires. A lot of experts with survival training have not used their skills and died because of this. How to not only identify these ingredients, but also explain them to know how to come through the toughest times. How to build your survival kit like a special forces soldier, so your family will have the basics even if you have to run. Hint, when a disaster strikes, every tool must be easily accessed. You don't want to spend an hour searching for something like a flashlight, do you? This little known fact can save your life in a crisis situation. Hint, when you cannot go outside, you must prepare your food indoors. You might make this fatal mistake. Also, how to use this common item you'll find in every home to treat medical emergencies. How to make a foolproof survival plan. Starting to structure a survival plan for you and your family for various disasters and total economic meltdown is what you must have in mind before any other preparations. However, most plans completely overlook this component, and I'll tell you what it is and how to further develop it. Establishing communications when you're in the middle of a catastrophe is vital when immediate assistance is needed. Floods and landslides often isolate towns or distant residents, which limits their access to essential public services. Having this critical item is the only way of calling for help, and I'll show you what it is at page 53. How to find your direction even if you're completely lost in the middle of the night, with no idea of how you ended up there, no compass, and no way to communicate with others. Kidnapping is a serious issue, and most people don't know anything about it. Regardless, it's used to escape if you can't figure out how to determine direction. I learned this directly from the theater of military operations. How to put together an itemized list of exactly what you need in your bug-out bag to survive for 3 full days on the go. Staying home and hunkering down might not always be possible. In these cases, it's absolutely critical to make sure you have an on-the-go kit ready and prepared to grab at a moment's notice and retreat from your home. If you don't have the right supplies in your bag, you're likely to end up in a ditch somewhere along the way. How to save a life even if you have no medical experience. During a crisis, people will be faced with breathing problems, severe bleeding, and shock, and you can count on it. You'll learn the exact life-saving steps you need to know when you, your family, or even a stranger needs your help, without allowing yourself or the victim to panic. How to find and create enough drinking water and purify it to keep your family alive for months without having to build anything or buy any expensive filters. Most filters drain your water of essential nutrients you'll desperately need anyway. Also, what sources to avoid when collecting water, a mistake most self-proclaimed preppers make. Here's a big one. If it hits the fan, it could be several months before any common order is restored, so your survival stockpiles could easily run out until you have the chance to figure out what's happening. You need a way to change those odds without putting your life in danger. I'll show you how you can kill and cook wild animals, even if you've never hunted before or don't own a firearm. I'm also going to reveal how to build field-expedient weapons, the tools and equipment to procure any type of food, no matter if it walks, crawls, or flies. Skills that would make even the indigenous Amazonian tribes angry. The ammunition you carry may be used to light a fire by extracting the bullet from the shell casing, and use the gunpowder for tinder for the spark to ignite the powder, and 7 other killer fire lighting methods that will put you in the same league as Bear Grylls in the snap of a finger. The black belt secrets of firearms finally exposed. Having a gun is not what you think. Most of those claiming to understand firearms have video gaming, often Call of Duty, as their sole experience with weapons, which is no substitute whatsoever for a practical instruction from a qualified commanding officer with hours of experience servicing a firearm. I'll show you facts from fiction that ensure your survival when it comes to firearms, and you'll see exactly what type of gun to have and why, and how to use it to protect the ones you love. Why everyone almost always fails to understand the psychological preparation even after years of preparing. Just learning this one secret will take your whole life into another world. How to protect your family from nuclear radiation. Not everything will be destroyed in a nuclear war. A lot of people are confused about the effects of fallout. Having this fatalistic attitude, I'm not going to prepare, I'd rather die. The problem is, you will suffer a slow and painful death, starting with confusion and diarrhea and ending with spine-racking convulsions and hallucinations from hell. Learn what's the most critical factor in building a fallout shelter, or how to locate one fast because your life depends on your decisions in the first few hours after a nuclear attack. Also covered, how to procure your food and water in a fallout-contaminated area when all available water sources may be contaminated. On page 173, you'll find out what you have to do before drinking any water, plus what special procedures to follow to procure your own food if you don't have it already stored in your shelter. A serious problem, but not impossible to solve if you listen to the type of advice coming from thousands of hours of laboratory research. The correct way to place an expedient shelter during a biological attack, which instantly narrows down the entry of airborne agents. Think about how much safer you'll feel reducing contamination by 75% by applying this simple fact. So easy you'll kick yourself for not knowing it. You probably don't believe in supernatural forces or incantations to save your sorry ass when a disaster strikes. Neither do I. But it's enough to think about this magic word to automatically be sure you're always in a perfect position upon meeting with any survival scenario. British Special Air Service has this down. It's probably the reason they're known as the most badass of the world's special forces. And it's found on page 88 of the book. The real shelf life of foods and why your food is worthless if you use the wrong packaging. There's nothing more demoralizing than finding your carefully packed food crawling with maggots and realizing your family is going to starve. How to devise a family communications plan. Don't ever get caught on the wrong foot by an accidental emergency. Being away from your family when they need you most is the most helpless feeling in the world. You must be able to know how you will get back together as quickly and safely as possible no matter what's going on. Also covered, the easiest way to cheat any food crisis without having to worry about food alteration. I'm not talking here about food that lasts a week or two. I'm not even talking about waiting in a government bread line. I'm talking about 23 foods with a shelf life of at least 6 months that will have you and your family nourished and optimistic no matter how long the food shortages last. And that's not all, not by a long shot. This incredible manual will get you started on a life so exciting it's almost beyond description. It will give you everything you need to become a master prepper. However, this material is not for everyone. For one thing, this manual was very expensive to create. It contains the results of more than 10,000 hours of research. And it features all of the most important sections of survival and preparedness. In fact, one of them is the survival mindset, which according to every real expert is in fact the most important factor in every survival situation. Therefore, my manual is slightly more expensive than those useless ebooks you can buy from those so-called experts. Also, as I said earlier, my manual is very straightforward. If being responsible is still hard for you, if you do not want to be held accountable by your family for not being there to protect them when it hits the fan, by putting into practice this life or death information I am sharing with you, do not order this manual. And there are other reasons you might not want this manual. Those other reasons are a little too personal for me to describe in this video presentation, but I can assure you that it will never be more affordable than what it is right now. And as if this wasn't enough, I decided to add a bonus to it. That's right. If you consider yourself ready for the road of continuous preparedness that's waiting ahead, something like long-term survival skills will come in handy. You'll find here all the secrets of long-term survival because survival isn't a sprint, it's a marathon. And if you're not prepared to survive how long it takes before any common order is restored, you might as well be dead. That is exactly why it's hard to put a price on this kind of information. On being the only one in your neighborhood who has the answers when all hell breaks loose, and the peace of mind to make it to the other side. I considered charging $997, as this is about a quarter of what you would have to pay to get this information live. I then considered $597, due to the current economic conditions. But in the end, I decided that even $597 would leave too many people unable to afford it. I wanted to put survival ahead of fairness, and make you an offer you can't refuse. I settled at not $997, not $597, not even $297, just a single payment of $49, because I want to share this critical information with as many people as possible. So I'm discounting the Survival After Collapse package to the incredibly low price of only $49.97. I know I can charge a lot more, but I'll keep the price low for now to help as many of my fellow patriots as possible. Not to mention that when it hits the fan, you'll have people paying you in food, shelter, medicine, ammunition, or anything you need just for one of those secrets to keep them alive. But I realize that some people are nervous about purchasing online or might have other doubts or influences from naysayers around them that do not understand the importance of preparedness. And I know that my manual has no excuses for the way it's created. So you must either love it for what it does for the safety of you and your family, or it's on me. So here's my guarantee. If for any reason you are not 100% completely satisfied with any part of my research and insights, I'll refund 100% of your purchase price. No questions asked, no BS. Just every penny back. And you have 60 full days and nights to decide. Just send me an email and I will personally handle your refund right away. Now's the time to make a decision, and it's pretty simple because the only way you can actually lose here is if you walk away. Remember, we are living in some of the craziest times in history, and many agree that it's not a matter of if, but when. You will be facing something beyond what you cannot overcome with your current preparation. Remember that when the bullets start flying, you will perform half as well as you did during your best training, and you and your family might not rise to the occasion when your lives depend on it. Simply denying a threat doesn't relieve your subconscious of what it already knows. The only way to put your mind at ease is to face reality, because when it hits the fan, you will remember this moment, when you had the chance to get your hands on every strategic skill and every insider advantage to save you and those you love. And you can be sure they will be looking to you for help and leadership. Don't let them down when you're a push of a button away from the best training in your life. This is their insurance for times to come, not your paranoid neighbors and certainly not your government. It's your decision. Don't let them down. By now, you may have noticed an order button has appeared on the screen. That means it's time for you to make your move. Some of us now realize the New World Order is real, and 2% of the population is trying to prepare. The experts say that as this increases, the prices to everything will rise, which is going to put prepping out of reach. Remember, there will be no warnings of an economic collapse and no text from your government to announce the end of the world as we know it. But there's no doubt this is coming. You must act now. When society collapses, there's going to be mass hysteria. People are going to be running around like zombies. I've given you all the information you need to save yourself, but you must act on it before disaster strikes. In fact, because I respect determination, I'm topping off my offer with an amazing super bonus. Only if you act now, you'll also get the Black Book of Guns for free. And don't think that's something you'd want to miss. And now, both of us came together, you and me, to make this happen. That's what real assistance looks like. It's time for you to grab the life raft. Don't be foolish when lives are at stake. I may intimidate to get what I want, but at least I get the job done. So I hope some of you are taking notes. Hit the button below and fill out the secure form that follows. I'll see you on the other side with a special announcement. That is, those of you who are capable. God bless you, and God bless America.